So again, welcome. Thank you for taking time out to be part of our session, and I promise it's gonna be worth it. So today we have this database manages fuel retail business, similar to a Petro Canada, handling both fuel and non-fuel product like engine oil, brake oils. Even in some of our gas station now, you have other product as well. All right. So now, what does the data look like? Now, think of from that simple receipt individual, like you would have like many customers coming at the back end. This is somehow what our data model will look like. So once we build the data platform, we'll then come up with a data model. How does this table relate to one another? So you can see we have a data about the invoice. We have one about the customer, we have one about the employee, the gas station, the storage tank, inventory, transaction, product, invoice detail. You can see they are kind of interrelated, right? So for today, we just want to make the demo very simple. So we're going to use invoice, customer, and employee. Now think of it in the practical sense. You have an employee in a gas station, right? Probably sometimes you don't need to interact with them with the automation put in place. Other times you might need to interact with them. Also you have customer as well that they make payment and things like. Sometimes you have the loyalty card. Also we can use that to gather customer information, and then you have the actual purchase that they make, right? And so we're going to take these three tables and try to build a platform for easy ingestion of data, processing of this data, and storing of this data, as well as then coming up with some report on this data. All right, so this is what our architectural diagram looks like. All right, so we have those customer and employee data. So you can see, first of all, let me kind of go through this. So you have the data sources here. This is the ingestion mechanism we're going to use, and this is where we're going to do transform and store our data. And for now, we're going to just use Power BI to ingest this data to be able to report on this data. However, you can also use another website or application and to be able to interact with this data. Now, from the data sources, the employee data and the customer are in a CSV, and they are just in a local in my local computer. Now the invoice, because it's a fact table, and I won't go into what a fact table is, but because it's more, let me just make it simpler. It's a transactional table, and so over time it has a tendency to really grow really big. So I store that in the cloud. I call it ADLS2. This is Azure Storage Platform. So now we have a data here, we have another data point here, and we need to bring them to this lakehouse and then create a warehouse and then create a semantic model. And from there, either we ingest that, we analyze our data using the data from warehouse, or we use a semantic model. In between that, we also have our notebook as well that we use for this transformation, and you're going to see the work of the notebook, but essentially this is what we're going to be dealing with today. All right, I know we are all excited to get into the demo, and I'm not going to take much more of your time. Let's just go straight into our demo for today. All right, okay, so first of all, okay, I missed one slide. I wanted to show you. Okay, just give me 1 minute. Okay, I just realized I missed one slide. So let's quickly deal with one slide. Before we go into the platform we're going to use, I want to talk about Microsoft Fabric. What is Microsoft Fabric? Okay, so Microsoft Fabric, it's a new platform. So this has been around for like 2 years or so, and this is obviously for Microsoft, and what they intend to do is to have an end-to-end AI-powered data analytics platform. What does that really mean? Before the concept of Fabric, most times you would have different platforms everywhere. So you could have the storage separate, the ingestion platform separate, as well as the warehouse separate, as well as the Power BI or whatever BI tool you're using separate. But what they have done with Fabric is that they bring all of their data analytics services into one single place. And so if you look at the way they've built Fabric, they basically unify Azure Synapse, Power BI, Data Factory, and more. So for those that are advanced, they kind of have an idea of what some of these tools are. But the concept of Fabric is so that they bring everything into one single place. And one of the key thing here is that they want to do this. Now they have what we call the lake-centric architecture with one lake. So there is this storage platform which we're going to see is called one lake. So essentially all of this platform gets built within one lake, and this one lake is going to be like your ordinary folder. You can, you know, if you've used OneDrive before, it's very similar to OneDrive. You can basically sync it to your to your folder, and then from there you can add data, you can remove it, so it make data really easy. However, there are still some drawback with this design because there is security with data, encryption that comes with data, so it's still evolving, and over time it's still going to evolve. So so that's really what I wanted to show you, just to give you an idea of Fabric. Now let's quickly go into the demo. Like I'm going to be showing you the architecture diagram as well as the demo. The reason for that is so that at least you don't lose track of, because we're going to be dealing with a couple of things, and I don't want us to lose track of what exactly we want to do. All right, now this is what Fabric looks like, right? Again, like I said, it's a combination of most of Azure services that has to do with data. All right, so now the first thing we're gonna do, if you look at our, oh sorry, I'm just gonna show you the give me 1 minute. Okay, perfect. If you look at our architecture diagram, one thing you're gonna see here is that we need to first know where our data are currently. So first of all, we have our CSV, and I can show you where that is, as well as we have the second data source, which is from ADLS2. So let me quickly show you that. So let me show you, give me 1 minute. So the first one is in here, so it's in my local computer, right? So that's where I have these two files. Now the second one, the second data source, it's gonna be from, yes, so this is my Azure portal, and I've created a storage account. I have my data in here. So this is the second one, the invoice, and you can see it's sitting in the cloud. It's under Microsoft Azure in a storage container. So those are the two sources we are going to be dealing with today. Now, going back to our architecture diagram, now we know that for us to do this, we need to first create a lakehouse where we want it's going to be a target source. So where we want the data to land, and then we need to create a pipeline that takes data from here into Lakehouse, and then also we need to upload this data from here, from CSV to Lakehouse. So let's quickly do that. All right, let's do just that. So let me go back to my Fabric. The first thing you want to do is to create a workspace. So you come in here, I have a couple of workspace, but don't worry about it. So you can just, for the sake of this training, we're just gonna call it let's call it end-to-end demo. Call it demo 1, demo 10. Let me just call it demo 10 because I have one for demo 1. All right, so I call it demo 10, and I'm not gonna do anything after this, and then I'm just gonna click apply. So essentially what I'm doing right now is to create a workspace. From that workspace, then I can build other stuff. So let's quickly do that. Now we have our workspace, right? And there are so many details I can touch on, but again, I don't want to go too deep. I just want to give us a quick high level of this process. So let's go to, within the workspace, the first thing we want to create, if you go back to our architecture diagram, is the lakehouse. And once you create the lakehouse, interestingly, what Microsoft has done is that automatically you're gonna see that the warehouse is created as well as the semantic model, but they don't have anything yet, but they just create those endpoints so that you don't have to create it again. All right, so let me go back to let's go back to the just give me 1 minute. So let's go back to workspace, and you have a lot of services here. So for now, we want to deal with Lakehouse, and for the Lakehouse, we're just gonna call it gas business. Let's call it gas business. and we're just gonna say create this business create. All right, we're gonna wait for it to create that Lakehouse. And Lakehouse, just think of Lakehouse. Again, I don't want to go into the more detail when it comes to some of this terminology, but just kind of know how things work. But Lakehouse is just we traditionally we have a warehouse, but now we have a lakehouse that basically can store data in any format. Warehouse, we usually store it a structured, a table-like data. To put it in a very simple term, but really they call it a structured data. And in Lakehouse, you have all kinds of data. It could be like unstructured, it could be semi-structured, and then it could also be a table-like structure, a table-like data. All right. So now we have our Lakehouse created. Let's take a look at that. Let's go back to our workspace, and you have the lake automatically, like I mentioned. It will come up with a semantic model and SQL analytics endpoint, so you don't have to worry about that. And now that we have our Lakehouse is just empty right now, so it comes with files and table, which is good. So the files is where you have all kinds of data. For today's demo, we're going to just be using CSV file, but essentially you have all kinds of data. So let's go back to architecture diagram. I don't want us to get lost in the terminologies and lose track of the concept. So now the first thing we want to do is let's bring in data from CSV. All right, let's quickly do that. So data from CSV. All right, so let me do that. One way I can do that, I can just click here and click upload. All right, I click upload files or upload folder. In this case, I'm going to click upload files. And I'm going to try. So I have my data right here. You might look at, if you're doing this on your own, you probably want to navigate to where your data is and then just upload it. So we're going to click upload, and then you just upload. You can see it's working well. It shows the green. That's all we needed. You can see the data right here. All right, so we've done the first part. The second one is, so what we've done so far is to upload this data from CSV to Lakehouse. All right. And then the next thing we want to do is to then ingest data from ADLS to Lakehouse. Let's do that. Okay. All right. So the next one is, okay, so let's create, we want to ingest data from this guy right here into this fabric. Now you can, within the Lakehouse, come to get data, and you can see new data pipeline. We're going to call it ingest data from data lake. Okay, Azure. All right, so we click create. So it's going to create the pipeline, but then it's going to give us a copy assistance, which I'm going to use for this demo. All right, so I already know that for my cloud, I need a blob. So I'm going to use, it's going to be Azure Blob, and it's going to ask me for the account name. So I know my account name. I'm going to come back here. This is my storage account. So I'm going to put in the storage account. For my purpose, I have my connection already, but if you're trying to replicate this, you probably want to create your connection afresh. You can basically use your username and password, and it will connect automatically. All right, so let's do that. Let's click on next, and it's going to take us to that container. Yeah, please, let's be muted. Let's keep questions for later, towards the end. Thank you. All right, so we can see all our containers. So the one that I want to use is this gas station, and I have a folder called general, and I have my file. So I'm just going to let it load. All right, so we're going to load this invoice.csv. We're going to let it preview. Alright, the other thing is that I know my data, the first row is the header, so I would ensure that I click on this first row as the header, because so otherwise it's going to count this first row as part of the record, but rather it's an header. So let's do next, and I want the data to be a file. It's asking me where I want it. I'm just going to let it put it in the, so basically it's just going to put it right in the root folder, which is fine with me. All right, so we're gonna click on next, and then we'll click on save and run. So just to give us, for those that are either intermediate or advanced, you might have used Data Factory before. So the engine behind this pipeline is Data Factory, and you can do all sorts of cool things in this Data Factory. Okay, so just bear that in mind. So now it's gonna run. It's a very small data set, so it's gonna be quick. We're just gonna wait for it to run. Can click. Okay, perfect. See, it succeeded, which is good. We're gonna come back to our workspace. We can see the pipeline. Now let's take a look at the Lakehouse. We should see the data now. We're gonna refresh this. This is the refresh button, and now we can see our invoice.cs. Beautiful. So now let's go back to our architecture diagram. Now we have this data in the Lakehouse. We have this into the Lakehouse as well. And then automatically when we created the Lakehouse, we have the warehouse endpoint and semantic mode. I'm going to talk about it. However, everything is under the one lake, like I mentioned before. Those are the power that we need. Now we have all of our data in file structure, right? Because we like it to be in the warehouse where we can query. It gives us a lot of flexibility when we can query, right? So we need to use Notebook to transform this data, move this data from file to table. All right, so let me go back to just give me 1 minute. I'm gonna have to be toggling between these Fabric platform as well as the architecture diagram. All right, so now we have this data, right? And then we're going to come back to our workspace. Now I can decide to create a new notebook just so I can make it a bit clear. So what we have here is just the files, right? If you look at the table here, nothing is in here. I'm just going to click on it. Okay, I can't even click. Basically, there is nothing, no table here. If you click on it, no table at this point. All right, so we need to create a table, and that's why we need to use a notebook, right, to be able to create a table based on the file. Now, because I don't want to recreate, I already have a notebook that works, so I'm just going to import that notebook. I will share that notebook with us as well. So I'm going to import it from my computer. I'm going to go back, and I have this notebook. All right, and this is a Python code, right? Very simple Python, so don't get worried. So I have the file here. I've imported the notebook. I call it transformation. So what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to open a new notebook using the existing notebook, and I'm going to say transformation. Why am I doing this? The reason why I'm doing this is because I want the system to know that I want to localize. I want to use this notebook for that lakehouse, so that way I don't have to. The way I reference the folder is going to be a bit straightforward. All right. So the first thing we're going to do here is that we're going to create these. We're going to run this query that kind of gives us a little bit of a platform. I don't want to go into a lot of coding because I know some people are new here, but at least just get an idea that what we are doing with this code right here using PySpark, which is a combination of Python and Spark. But what we're doing here really is we're trying to move the files that we have here, these files, create a table such a way that we can query it, we can use it to build reports and things like that. All right, that's essentially what we want to do. But for us to do that, we need to tell the system that we want to set up a Spark environment. Now, I'm not going to go into what Spark is, but at least for some of us that already have some ideas, you know what I'm talking about. For those that are new, just know that this is the way to just get your data into a table. Simple. All right, so let me run this. I'm going to run that Spark query, and we're going to wait for it to run completely. It's going to create a cluster at the back end. So that's why it's taking longer. So this cluster is created, and now we have the data. Let's wait for it. All right, so we have this data right now. Now we can then start doing some cool things, right? So first of all we're gonna first create the invoice table. All right, we're gonna first create the invoice table. Now for you to do that, we need to import some functions. So in this case, we imported call, year, month, and quarter. And then I set up a variable here saying that the table name is going to be invoice. Now I need to call this reference. So what I'm doing here, for those that are intermediate and advanced, and for those that are new, please don't let this intimidate you. Just know that essentially if you don't want to get yourself too confused, just know that we're just trying to create a table from the file. That's it. For those that are intermediate and advanced, so essentially what I'm doing here, I'm setting a variable called invoice, and then I'm creating that data frame. I believe you should know what a data frame is. And then I'm going to copy this ABFS part. And so what I'm going to do is that I already set an option here saying that header is true, meaning that I use my header as the column names. But the only thing I'm going to change here is I'm going to change this guy. Let's see it here. Alright, so I think it looks good. Alright, so I think it should work. Finger crossed. Then what I'm doing here is with column, I'm adding new column. I'm saying based on the issue date, add year, based on issue day, add quarter, based on issue date, add month column, and you will see all these columns don't exist currently in the table. So I'm just creating an additional column to make my reporting easier. All right. So let's keep going. Okay, so let's keep going. Now let's run this and see if it works. Gonna run that. So it's starting some Spark jobs. Alright, so it succeeded. So good. That means our table has been created. Let's take a look. We're gonna have to refresh. Alright, you can see before we didn't have this table. Now we have our table. That's cool. And you can see the new columns we created: year, quarter, month, and then we also convert the total amount to decimal, and you can see it's in decimal format. That's brilliant. That's what we wanted. Now we are left with these other two tables, other two files, which is customer.csv and employee.csv, right? What we're gonna do is that I'm gonna write a function, and again, for those that are new, please don't worry yourself, but those that are intermediate or you've used Python before for whatever reason, I'm basically saying that I'm basically importing some bunch of functions here, and this query is just meant to create a table based on customer.csv or employee.csv. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do, oh yeah, it's gonna be tricky for me. Okay, I'm gonna see how I can make it work. Okay, I can still make it work fine. All right, so what I'm gonna do is that I'm gonna create this function. Let me just quickly walk you through this function. I'm gonna create this function saying that load full data from source. I'm gonna call it a table name, so I can use it for multiple things. So think for example, I have like 10 or 20 tables to load, right? I don't want to keep doing this process one by one. So the essence of writing the function is so that I can iterate and use that code for multiple purposes. So that's why I'm writing this function, and I'm creating a data frame. CSV header is true, load from this part. All right, and here you can see I'm making it very, very dynamic. Put the table name. The table name here is going to be whatever table name I supplied here. And yeah, I don't really need this, but I just kept it there. So I'm only saying if only ingest the column if it's not photo. And yeah, I'm just saying write that table to this particular table space. All right. So now the only thing I need to do is that I want to change this part. All right. So I'm just going to use this and copy the ABFS part, and I'm going to paste it right here. Just make sure that it's good. But then, because I want it to be dynamic, I'm just going to remove this. Come on. Just going to remove this guy. All right. And then my function is looking good. And I'm going to run all of this, right? So basically, I'm saying that take a look at customer and employee. One thing to bear in mind when you're doing this by yourself is that this is very case sensitive. When I was trying this, it didn't quite work at the beginning, but then once you change the case accordingly, then it works very well. All right, so let's try this. Let's see if it works. Run the code. Spark job is okay. Beautiful. You can see there's some Spark job run, and now we should have all our tables now. All right, beautiful. You can see now we have our table. Now, great that we have our table. We can quickly run some code, but I don't want to run. If I have to run in Lakehouse, I will have to be using either Spark SQL or I have to use Python, but I just want to use SQL, right? So that's so I'm going to go back to my workspace, All right, let me just quickly go back to our diagram. So what we've done so far is that we have used Notebook to move data from files and perform some transformation by adding those tables, those new columns, and move it to table. Now, we should be able to access them within the warehouse endpoint. That's what we want to do. Now, let's query the table. Let's see what it actually looks like. Let's run some SQL and see what our table looks like, okay? So now that we have our table we have our tables now, let's run. And so let's create, let's click on the SQL Analytics endpoint. All right, we're just gonna wait for it. Automatically, it's gonna inherit those because it's connected to the Lakehouse. So the way Microsoft has developed this, so automatically you should see that table. Let's refresh. Okay, let's refresh this. It should just get the table, I think. Let's see. Okay, I think I'm clicking on something. Okay, I'm clicking on the wrong one. Okay, I'm gonna go back in and we are on yeah, we are on this one. So let's click on this guy again. Okay, so let's see if we have our tables. Okay, beautiful. Yeah, I was clicking on the wrong workspace, but now we have our table. Let's run some SQL query. I'm gonna run some queries, select top to. So you can see I can run some query, select top 100 customer ID, and you can do a couple of stuff, right? You can, because it's a regular, it becomes a regular database, and you can run stuff. You can decide to say, oh, I just want the customer ID, address, and name. Let's just make some changes here, and then I run this again. And when you run it, I do Alt and Enter, right? That's what I'm using to run. But you can basically also click on run, right? Click on run, right, say should work. And let's say you can do a couple of stuff, but for the sake in the interest of time, we won't do more, but just know that you have full access. And this is T-SQL, Transact SQL, and that is the Microsoft SQL platform. Because we have different variants of SQL. We have Spark SQL, we have T-SQL, we have Postgres SQL, but for this one is T-SQL. All right, now that we have all of these, now the next thing is that we have our warehouse. So let's build some reports. The interesting thing is that I can choose to build my report within Power BI. Within the Fabric, using Power BI platform within Fabric. But also I can decide to do within desktop. All right, for the sake of this class, I would do both. All right, I would do both. So the first thing I want to do here is to run to have like a model layout. Do we have this direct link? Okay, I think I need to set up a setting. Let's do that. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right, so let me pull up where's my invoice? Yeah, so what I want to do is to build a data model. Okay, I'm just going to build a data model, and you can see employee ID and employee ID here. You can run that. All right. All right, and then you can see customer ID and customer ID, create that relationship, and sweet. So you have your two relationships, and then you can just come to reports in here, click on reports, and it gives you an idea of some other data as well. And because I'm an admin on this tenant, therefore I have access to other automatic generated tables. But I'm not going to deal with that right now. So we're just going to have this, and we're going to create new reports. Yes, I'm going to use all three. And so this is one where you can just create your report. We're just going to wait for it. So you can create your report within Fabric itself, and so you have access here, so you can do a couple of stuff. So so I'm not going to do a lot. Let's just put like a card. Let's put a card here, and then let's pull in the total amount. Just drop in the total amount. All right, and you can see we have the total amount here, and you can keep building. But we're going to build a cool dashboard just from our Power BI desktop. So let me launch a new Power BI. Just give me 1 minute. Okay, good. Where's this guy? Where is this guy? Okay, I'm just going to launch my Power BI. Just wait a little bit. I'm launching a new Power BI platform, and it's loading. So while the Power BI is loading, so just to recap, as we go into the final lap of this demo, so what we've done so far is that we have our data sources in different places. We ingested it into Lakehouse. The warehouse endpoint was automatically created when we created the Lakehouse. We used notebooks to perform some transformation and to ingest the data into a table, and then we're able to create semantic model as well, right? And then we're able to access it within Fabric. We're able to create use the data to create report. We didn't go into creating it, but we know we can do that. Now the last part of it is, let's actually build a dashboard off of this, what we've done so far, and then we'll go into question and answer. So now somebody is trying to join. Okay, now this is what my Power BI looks like. So I'm going to just run a brand new report. So once you open your Power BI desktop, this is what you're going to see. Okay, and I have already logged in as the admin. Now we don't have data. What do? You can see we don't have any data. So we need to be able to get data from what we've just created. So we're going to do just that. I'm going to go back to my workspace. I'm going to save that. I'm going to call it Fabric Online Report. This one that we did. Okay, now I'm going to go back to the workspace, and then I'm going to copy the connection string. Okay, because that's what I need to use for. See if it allows me to copy. Yeah, copy SQL connections. This is what I need to connect within from Power BI. So I'm going to copy that. All right, copy, close, and then go back to my Power BI, and then I'm going to say I want to ingest my data from SQL Server. Okay, so, and it's going to ask me what's the connection string, and that's connection string. I just copy. I'm going to paste it, and I'm going to say no, I don't want direct query. Direct query is very limiting, and but for today I want imports. So I'm going to click on imports. Now it's going to ask me for my credentials. I'm just going to use Microsoft account. I'm going to sign in. It's going to have me. It's going to ask me to do authentication. So I'm going to authenticate. I authenticated. Connect, and we should see all those 3 tables that we've created. And if we had more, we should be able to see more as well. So you can see now I see my data. I see way more data. Like I said, some of them are just system generated, but the ones I'm interested in is these 3. So I'm just going to copy these 3. And then I'm going to load the data. Anyway, I'm going to do transform. Let's see. Okay. So I have transform here, and okay. So basically, I just want to be sure that my data types are good before I ingest it. I don't want this guy. I'm just going to delete that. Okay, employee. Let's take a look. Gas station ID. All right, I think this should be, yes, it's like a whole number, so I'm going to make it a whole number. Employee ID. I'm okay with that just being a string. And I'm going to delete this as well. Delete. Remove. And then I'm going to do this. I'm going to take a look at this, make sure that my data type is good. This one's supposed to be date and time. We'll go to date and time. And I'm going to just delete this too. I don't need them. Alright, so I'm okay now. I'm just going to close. For those that are new, don't worry. We actually used like almost 2 months to talk about Power BI desktop alone. So, and each of those pieces also take time to learn. So just this whole this session is just meant to kind of get your mind to think about the end-to-end process, what it really entails, right? Okay, so that's cool. So one of the things we have to do here, because we okay, now inherited some data, the connection, but the cool thing is that we can actually change the connection here if we want. But now I'm not going to change it because it looks good to me. I see connection, customer ID, and it's many to one. That's good. I see many to one as well. That's cool. So now I'm going to just build a dashboard. So let's say I just want to insert a text box. Let's try and make it a little bit fanciful, okay? And all right, and then we're gonna let's call this what do we call it? We call it let's call it Petro Canada for fun. It's not really Petro Canada data. Petro Canada Inc. All right, and then let's make it a little bit fanciful, and so we're just gonna see if I can change the background there. Anyway, I'm just gonna call this, make it a little bit bigger. Right, and it's so slow. Okay. Okay, so we're just gonna leave it this way, and so I'm gonna make this a little bit smaller, and then I'm going to put this along, and I'm just gonna centralize it. And then let's centralize it. We can centralize, and then let's just put the blank, and then come to style, remove this guy, remove this guy, pull this guy. No, okay, I think it looks okay. All right, so then we put in some data. So let's put in some filters first of all. Let's say we want to filter. We may be interested in, let's say, employee's name, for example, and we're just gonna change that to slicer setting, drop down, and then we're just gonna have customer's name. We probably should have employee's name as well. Let's put employee data. Remove this guy. Employee's name, and then we'll put one more. And let's say we just want position, for example. And also we just have the let's put months. Okay, cool. So we have these filters. We can basically do some cool stuff here. I can move this guy here. Let's see, view, modeling. There we go. Okay, we're just gonna leave that for now. Let's just make it a little bit nicer, and then we can just add, let's say, a card, and let's put in what do we want to put here, total amount. So we have some total amount. Let's change the name. Alright, so we have the total amount. What again can we add? Okay, so maybe for now we just leave a total amount, and then let's add some just gonna add some visuals. We have the date, and also we have the total amount. And yes, so we're gonna have something like this. Don't worry, it's looking messy. We can tidy it up, but just to kind of give you an idea. What again can we do here? Let's make it a little bit nicer. First of all, I need to remove the title. Then for sorry. Okay, I'm supposed to remove this title. I'll just remove the one from x-axis. Okay. And then I remove the one from the y-axis. Okay. It's looking cool. And then we just change the title. We just call this daily total amount. Daily total amount. Alright. Alright, so it's looking cool. Let's do a couple more stuff. The font, let's make it semi-bold. Let's change the background to blue. Let's change this to white. Okay, it's looking good. Let's add another visual. Let's add this guy. And let's do total amount again. And let's slice that by position. We cannot get an idea now. Alright. And we can say copy this format, paste it right here. See right away, we don't have to do much again. Alright. Okay, so looking good. We just need to change this title. Change the title here. I will call this total amount by position. Alright, it's looking good. And then we do one more. You know what, I'm actually going to just keep this guy right here. I'm just going to remove this one for now. Just have these visuals. And then I'll have one more. I'm just going to change the slice we're going to slice it by position. Let's look for what we can do here. Vehicle type. Okay. So we can just change the title, doesn't reflect it. Let me have the title here, just gonna come here. Title, total amount by vehicle type. Alright, so now we kind of have a dashboard in place. It's not the best of the best dashboard, but at least it's something, right? And then we're gonna save this file. We're gonna save this file. You know what? I'm just gonna save it somewhere for now. Let me save it right here. I just call it report. Alright, and then we click on save, and then we can publish this. How cool is that? So we can publish that, and this is where our so let's publish it to the same, this one we're using, to the same workspace, right? Then we'll publish it. Alright, so you can see this is where the user then begin to use this data, right? So I'm going to go back to where we were before, and you can see the report right now is in there. I'll show you. The cool thing is, so this is where all of our users then begin to interact. You see, a lot of work has gone into place, right? But they don't see that, right? A lot of work has gone into place, but most people don't see it. But then you can see, they can start featuring whatever they want, whatever information they want, they can start using it, right? But again, we've built a platform such a way that we can easily ingest more data on a daily basis if we want, and as well as update some of the dimensional data. Now, the cool thing with this process, which I believe one of the reasons why Microsoft is trying to do this, is the lineage. Now, if you click on lineage, you can see where the data is coming from. You see the lineage? Now, before the advent of Fabric, you only see your reports and probably semantic model. You don't know where else the data is coming, what kind of transformation has been done. But in here, you can see, oh, we're actually coming from Lakehouse, and then we have a SQL endpoint, and then you see these. And so if for some reason you're working with this data and building a report, and you want to have an idea if there's some transformation that has been done, you can easily come back to this to this Lakehouse and then take a look at what transformation has been done. All right, so that's really what I wanted to show us on this part. So we've concluded that demo. I believe you got it. So just some key takeaways before we go into question and answer. Some key takeaway is this. The first thing we did was data ingestion. And what does that involve? We have two sources. One is a flat file CSV, and we have Azure Data Lake. And then we had to use Data Factory, which is the pipeline that we use. And then we didn't use Data Flow, but just bear in mind that we could use Data Flow for the CSV file, the one that we have in our local computer as well. And then the storage platform is OneLake, which under the hood is actually using a Delta Lake format. The second takeaway is that you perform data transformation and processing, meaning you did some data engineering work, you'd use some notebooks using Apache Spark and SQL, right? Which is cool. Some of the things you could also do is some ML models. You can build some ML models just using the platform we've just built, and also you can deal with real-time data as well. The other key takeaway here is the data storage and management. Now, Lakehouse is a big topic, and you are able to use Lakehouse, even though you might not understand in detail what Lakehouse is, but we were able to use Lakehouse, which basically combines structured and unstructured data. Also, you were able to work with Warehouse, which uses T-SQL, similar to other databases that you typically have out there. Then we also use some short-term storage as well, like CSV files. We didn't use Lakehouse staging, but just know that you could also use it in this architecture. And the last but not the least is that you perform data analytics and visualization, using the Power BI dataset or just ingesting from the SQL, and then you were able to build dashboard, right? And also some of the cool thing you can do from here is also to have some AI-driven insight. It's all embedded within Power BI. We'll go through this. We do have a Power BI course that we use to run, and we usually go through some of this stuff. So these are some of the things that we have done today.